New Year!
This is episode number 472 of WP Watercooler. What does your WordPress website have an expiration date? I said what? Oh well. I'm Jason Tucker. Find me over at jasontucker.blog.
I'm Say Reed. I do things at Say Reed Media, all the things. Woo, woo.
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, back at it again in the new year on the world's most influential WordPress podcast.
Look who's bringing it.
Speaking of that podcast, go subscribe to us as a podcast and hang out in our fancy Discord.
Come dance in our Discord. Have you ever danced in a Discord in the pale of the moonlight?
I can't say I have.
I did not plan that. I want you to know.
We know.
Happy New Year to the water cooler. We were back last week with Dev Branch, but not to water cooler proper.
Yeah. You know, before we jump in, I don't think we've ever really. I mean, we've talked about it here and there, but the fact that we have two shows and they're two different RSS feeds and they're two different podcasts,
And you have to
but
subscribe.
they're one YouTube channel and there's one Facebook group.
And we are both number 1 and number 2 on some podcast lists.
Yes, on a very specific podcast list.
Right.
We're number one and number.
That's like Taylor Swift level in WordPress. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. We're selling out all of the shows.
I don't know anyone else with the. Oh wait, are we gonna do a? That would be interesting if we did a live tour around the country, like all the podcasts do. You know, they like rent out like some auditorium, and then they come and do a live show, and then anyway.
Yeah,
all about his ideas here, people.
Hey, back in the day, we used to do that. We used to do that at WordCamps. That was a lot of fun.
You did.
Yeah.
If you're interested, you just let us know in that Discord that you're going to join if you haven't yet.
Yeah. You tell us when we're sponsored, and you send us the tickets, and then we'll show up.
I did suggest pre-sale, so you never know.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are long-term plans, which is a great
Long-term, 11 years later, long-term plans.
12 years later this year.
So 12 years now,
We
yeah.
just went into 24 and it started in 12, so yeah. Anyway, speaking of long-term plans.
Wow.
Segue?
Segue.
This topic is not just about 100-year hosting plans. This is not even necessarily inspired by 100-year hosting plans. However, it is adjacent to that topic because, you can't not be when you're talking long-term.
Sure.
100 years, pretty long-term. But multiple times over the past few weeks, we have shared with each other some examples of websites literally tapping out. Google, again, our good friend Google, who does love to... what is it called? Depreciate? No, depreciate. I guess they kind of do deprecate them too. I don't know. I can never remember which one it is. They kill. That's what I'm going to go ahead with. They kill their projects and they just suddenly do it. So about 8 years ago, 5 to 8 years ago, Google launched a huge national campaign called Get My Business on the Map. Along with their Google My Business launch. It was like this huge deal. And they connected with a bunch of SBDCs, which I worked with around the country. It was around this thing. I got to visit Google's campus as part of this thing. It was kind of wild. But they basically created your business profile for Google, right? But they're like, and you can create your website. Here it is. So across the country with the help of this huge campaign. I cannot stress how big this campaign was. To businesses to both get their page and then to create their website using that. Well, last week they said, hey, so if you made your website using your Google business profile to make a website, which they explicitly told people to do.
Of course.
I love that.
We're like, you should do this. They said, your website is going to be frozen in March and it will disappear in June completely. No, in March, start rerouting to your, it will reroute to your business profile page, and then in June it will just 404. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
That's
like
fun.
it's like we talk about it, right? We talk about Google. There's a Google Graveyard website that talks about all their dead projects, but this is the first one. A lot of those are like kind of secretly released or not really have a big deal behind them, and like people like pick them up and get into them, and it's like whatever. But this is literally like a literal national, probably possibly even international, because some of the SBDCs have like South America and Central America and Canada stuff too. So anyway, funny kind of ish. You can go after those customers if you are a client person. Anyone who has a Google page website, go find. They got to get a website. But then also, Jason Tucker, you forwarded to us a little something about Medium.
Yeah, that closing up, or not closing up, but kind of, I don't know.
Well,
doing weird
I guess
stuff.
They're closing their
weird
API.
Stuff.
They're locking down. They're locking down their garden, which sounds weirdly like a chastity.
Wow, no one ran with that one though. That they could have.
So
yeah, a lot of these are no APIs.
That was just a notification, right? So I think that was through Zapier. I was trying to look up some more information about that yesterday, but then I didn't. But basically, they were saying you can't import or export your content using Zapier because they're going to retire their API. So that whole integration concept, or as we now call it in Matt parlance, deliberation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just this. Is it Schadenfreude? What's that word? The German thing where you take slight pleasure in other people's pain.
We've got 23 more minutes. Figure it out. Work through it.
Look it up. Pronounce it with one word. No, it's like when you the concept is when you are happy for someone else's suffering, right? So I am definitely whatever concept is adjacent to that, like you are feel validated by the unfortunate outcome that you saw coming 10 miles away, 10 years away, honestly.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, we knew that would happen. And even with Medium, like this is exactly what we talk about with open source. And, I guess is an important concept going along with that whole data.
Well, that's more, and the thing is that's like open web, the idea of having an API for things and being able to have an open web where you can post things from one client to another or one website to another, or use an intermediary like, Zapier or something like that. So it just makes you think like, what are we trying to get to where we spent so much time and energy building APIs to like we built an API to make a web app talk to a backend to get it to update, and now we're trying to turn off this API. So we're no longer be able to post it. It's going to be a private one that only they're going to use for themselves and maybe like, high-end clients or something like that. But
this
so
is
weird.
Yeah, this is I mean, I'm enough of an internet old that I remember when APIs were going to be the thing that it's going to make the web so amazing. It was the promise of Web 2.0. And now everybody is kind of, snapping back and taking their
including
APIs
WordPress, including WordPress.
Absolutely. But I mean,
specifically.
You look at what happened with Twitter last year, one of the many things that happened with Twitter last year. But
what happened with Twitter last year?
Oh,
I don't remember.
Now we only have 21 minutes, at least 21 minutes left in the show. I do not know that I have the time. However, they closed down their API. All the different Twitter apps that were out there that actually helped grow Twitter, they closed off that walled garden. Reddit did the same thing. They pulled back their API.
Pissed off all that ecosystem too.
Right. So
everyone's just like, well, get over it. And then, I mean, Twitter, Elon, X, whatever you want to call it, also rate limited, right? So you can't even really scrape. Like it's not
Right.
even like you can't access stuff. Same thing with Facebook, incidentally. And of course Instagram. You can only get so far before you load an Instagram on the browser. You can't get very far until you have to log in. And Facebook, who cares about Facebook? But I did lose my Facebook account. That was from like 2007 because it got hacked and deleted, and there's no one to ask about it, so it's just gonna never exist. But I can't see anything in Facebook anymore.
Who cares about Facebook is right. Sarah was on a call with her mom, who was a hardcore Facebook user, and they said something about Facebook, or Sarah said something like offhandedly about Facebook, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't use Facebook," and her mom goes, "Yeah, I mean, neither do I really. It's not that." And I mean, she was posting minion memes with the best of them just a couple years ago, and now she just does not care.
They really just they all really know how to run a good thing into the ground, don't they?
So going back,
Shootification.
Stop destroying everything. I really do.
So going back to the API part of it, Twitter, like I want to look at it from a different standpoint.
Wait, I just want to say real quick, I swear one of my resolutions in 2024 is to have less existential crises, especially on air. Just so you know.
Okay.
So Twitter, no longer does it, has, the way that their API is set up totally different now. But then you have Grok, and Grok being their competitor to OpenAI's ChatGPT.
Wait, is it?
I'm thinking.
Wait, is it Grok Twitter or X's or no?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that API is allowing it, by turning off that API, they're essentially not giving any of their competitors access to the data that's on X. So if they can use Grok as a way of being able to grok all of the Nazis that are on, X, they'd be able to get all the information they want off of it and be able to use that to fuel their large language model. I just read something about it, but it's X's competitor to ChatGPT.
Yeah, because everybody's trying to shove AI that doesn't need to fucking be there into.
So what I'm trying to figure out is how many of these, whenever I hear somebody say I'm turning off my API, I'm thinking, okay, if they're turning off their API, is there a reason for it? And are they coming out with a ChatGPT competitor?
So essentially they're like, you can't use my my site's content for your LLM. And if you want to ask anything about anything, you have to ask our little chatbot over here.
Yes, that's I'm thinking that's probably one of the routes that they're going. Now, is Medium coming up with their own thing? I don't know.
Of course they all are, but I don't understand why it's. First of all, I need to just say something about AI real quick. It is the most poorly used word that I have heard. It's so loose. I have seen it's annoying everywhere because people are talking about search and they're like, AI, and I'm like, that's not AI. That's a search algorithm. That's not the same thing. Either all computers are AI, or we need to specifically talk about generative AI being what we mean when we're talking about AI, because there's literally this commercial. I was watching some stream and a commercial came on, and she was like, I don't know if artificial intelligence will tell me it isn't working or something, and tries to use it, and they're just searching. I'm like, we're just going to a website that why are you calling it AI? Because the whole just slap some of those little stars on there. How do the stars turn into the AI thing also?
Going back to Sarah's mom, a few years ago, this is just another case. A few years ago, everything had to do with a firewall. People learn a word, and then they just shovel it into everythking.
If a site doesn't load, she's like, I think there's a firewall.
Yeah, I think that there's a problem with the firewall. And then I look and I'm like, you're not really cool. It does. You're not even running a firewall. And yeah, turns out like but everything is probably the firewall.
I mean, if
Probably
you had to
because
imagine what a firewall was without knowing, I would say it's probably just a security layer. And that's
Right.
like what she would be like, oh, of course I have a firewall. It's on the edge of the internet.
So
it's the wall of
look
my
at
internet.
look at what they're doing now with AI. It's being shoveled into everything, and it's becoming a generic like Kleenex term where now right. Sure. But no, to get back to kind of our original topic, I know that we never
nice comeback there.
I know that we never stray too far afield on this show, but yeah,
never.
To get back to our original topic, it is interesting to me because we're talking about websites having an expiration date, or at least that's what we kind of came into today wanting to discuss. And I think honestly that websites do have an expiration date. I think
do you mean like the concept of website, or do you mean a particular website instance?
I mean, particular website instances, particular. I made a site for Sarah and my wedding. It is online, but I don't update it anymore. And if it one day it only lives on like a bunch of static files on a host somewhere, like it's still
live in the website archive on the
the Internet Archive. Yeah, but I mean, it's not really alive. It's just kind of in stasis, and the
now
web
we're literally defining life. I thought, this is a great way to kick off 2022.
So, but okay, yeah. Today I learned that it is still 2022.
2024. I know it.
That's no.
I said that.
But
oh Lord,
my personal website at jasoncosper.com, like that is a blog that I haven't updated in 2 years. I mean, I update the plugins and themes and everything else. It's still online, but I have no interest in continuing to blog there. I started a new blog last year because I was like, there's too much baggage here.
Ignore that one.
Yeah.
Like an old diary. This is, what? This is like the thing that like, blogging coming out of the era of like live journal, right? Like that was really where the blogging like world came from. And of course, MySpace posts and all that. But like, it, the diary, the actual like physical diary that, of or that a lot of people still use for journaling, the journal. There is a benefit in being able to say, okay, here's this thing, and I'm just gonna put it over there, and I can keep them. But like, it's, if someone wants to see it when I die or whatever, my children want to read it someday, or I want to like look back and be like, how did I get through this problem last time? Like that's great. But in terms of like like having that available to other people who have no context of your history or where you are now, because when you read your journal in the future or your children do or whatever, it's with the context of who you are as a person and your whole history, right?
Yeah.
On the website, it is not like that. So Google can just index some random thing you wrote in 2014 and be like, here you go. And you're like, wow, that is, not who I am. That was the really hard time that I don't want shoved in my face, all of that stuff. So to a certain degree, I want to ask the question, should we be worried about having long-term websites? Because should the content just be there forever? Like, what is that? Like, is it just like having a book written that is available to everybody at all times? I don't.
Even books, I mean, they fall out of print. They get harder to find.
They start being really bad. I have, my bookstore, I've got all these books, and some of them are like, inappropriate and, racist and, sexist and have bad ideas about like, all sorts of things. So, should
Right.
that be held on the same level of like, current humanities, existing wiki, whatever you want to call it.
So I'm reminded
Guy.
I'm reminded of a discussion that I got to overhear with my nephews, and they were like 2 and 4 at the time, and they're riding in the back of my sister-in-law's Suburban, and they're driving around, running some errands. And one of them notices, the younger one, the 2-year-old notices, like, oh, the leaves are changing. They're getting they're getting yellow, and there's a lot of brown ones on the ground and everything else. And their mom, who is a very practical lady, does not sugarcoat things for them, says, remembered, we talked about this. And then I got to hear a little 2-year-old say, oh, right, everything dies.
Wow.
So much for that existential crisis in 2020.
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry, say. But
he's like, what
okay.
revolution? No.
Yeah.
That's good though.
No.
I mean, I've had my daughter has had the same awareness because she lost her grandpa, my partner's dad, and then my dog and my cat.
Right.
And then I have another dog because all of my pets are on the end of their life cycle. And so we're kind of my last dog, also my first dog. She's just like slowly deteriorating. So we talk about it, and she'll introduce people to her. She'll be like, this is Meta. By the way, my dog's name is Meta, and she's old. So obviously that is not
pre-company.
Yeah. Original Meta.
No cease and desist were sent.
She says, this is Meta. She's going to die soon. She introduces her to people.
Oh, goodness.
Everything dies.
She's prepared. She's almost 4. She'll be 4 next week. So I agree that there is, you get into this discussion a lot. You can get into this discussion a lot philosophically if you want to talk about like would you rathers, like would you rather live forever or would you rather, swallow 10 bugs or whatever. I that whole living, there's a really philosophical take that having like a tangible timeline, knowing that expiration date is happening, to have you use the thing, whether it be life or a coffee maker or
or a website.
Use that thing while it's active and while you have it. And then when it doesn't work anymore, to like move on to the next thing, the afterlife or a new website with new technology. Because sometimes the debt, because you can move a website along, sometimes the what's it called? The technology debt and even the content debt is so much, you just have to start over. So, at a certain point, you get to that question about the Oedipus. What's his name? Not Oedipus. Is it Oedipus? No. Odysseus.
Not Oedipus.
Odysseus' ship.
Theseus. The ship of Theseus.
That ship. Which is like, is it the same ship if it's been completely replaced? So it's like, is it the same website if you've switched out all the content and the plugins and switched hosting, but moved your database, purged all your original tables? Like, what is a website?
Oedipus is the one that wanted to have sex with his mom.
Right.
Odysseus is the one who wanted his shipmates to tie him to the mast so he wouldn't run after the sirens who were trying to get them to crash on the rocks and kill and eat his whole crew. He wanted to hear their song, but he did not, he was willing to let himself be driven crazy. And yes, the ship of Theseus is where if all of the parts on something are eventually replaced, is it still the same ship?
Yeah. I mean, that's why you have you have the ability to move your blog from one service to the next. I mean, I went from LiveJournal way back in the day I went from, there's a whole bunch of different places I pulled my data from and then plopped it into WordPress because it was easy to move it into WordPress.
People have been
Plop
moving
is
all
a
their
good
Twitter
word.
data. Remember last
Plop.
year, all the Twitter data migration to Mastodon and also
Yeah.
to WordPress websites where everyone's like, well, I'm taking my content. I always tried to download my Facebook content. I don't think I ever succeeded in doing that. I don't know.
What would you do with it?
Yeah.
It's-
Look at
I would like to have the pictures I posted on there.
okay, that's fair, but look at what's happening now with Substack. People are fleeing Substack in just droves over the fact that they are okay with hosting fascist and Nazi content. They said,
Why do we have to go through this in the tech world like every 6 months? It's like Pantheon is like whatever. It's like, can everyone just stop with hosting the Nazis?
It's
Do we
because
have to keep doing this? Because they keep
it's
popping up
because
like mushrooms somewhere, or like, right?
well, it's the majority of tech bros out there tend to have a more libertarian bent and have
Yes,
all read
libertarianism, individuality.
right. I also remember being a teenager and
And caring only about yourself.
eventually I fucking grew out of it. So,
Right.
but I was actually kind of thinking of longevity, and I shared this in the private chat. I was reading earlier today, even because I have been low key trying to pressure a friend who is on Substack to move off of Substack, and a close friend, a known author. Really great guy, but it is, I mean, this is how he is an author, and between writing books, this is how he makes money, is people subscribing to his Substack newsletter. So him moving fucks with his house payment, his
Right.
all of his bills.
People have built their lives on these platforms that they have no control over.
So
at all.
Ben Wordmuller wrote this really great post and basically kind of talks about how yes, okay, like running your own site is painful, the headline of it, but hosting Nazis is worse. So just but
or cohabitating with, anyway, sharing servers with them is much worse.
Right. But he lists off all of the alternatives out there, and lists WordPress alongside Ghost and Button Down and a bunch of other places that people can move their newsletters over to. But Ben Wordmuller, I don't know if the two of you are familiar with any of his other stuff or not. Ben is very long, like for a very long time, been a proponent of running things on your own domain, owning your own domain, owning your own content. Like he's very indie web focused, so like publishing stuff on your site and sending it out to the rest of the internet, like from your site. That is kind of the sigil that he's taken up, and the flag that he's been championing.
So I think that's an interesting thing here, that I don't know that there is a platform that you could be on other than your own thing that you are setting up in some way that you could actually make that bet on. Because for example, like the next, Google recommended, say, go to Google site pages. Trust us again. They also said WordPress. They didn't specify .com or .org, but in theory, right, you can go, this was a free website. So you could go to WordPress.com and get a free hosted site. And I've actually seen people talk about WordPress.com as an alternative to Substack, or an alternative to just having a free site somewhere that isn't, also supporting Nazis.
On both Google and DuckDuckGo, when you just search for the word WordPress.com comes up first.
.com comes up so much in my SEO these days, or my SERPs. We don't need to talk about that right now, because I am like literally constantly ticked off about it.
Turns out sending email is actually kind of hard. Turns out,
very hard.
you know, turns out you need to know like these acronyms like DChem and DMARC and how to, why did I get listed in some black hole, and how do I, you end up having to like become a whole, like, it's like you're a race car driver, you know, and you also have to know how to move the race car, and you also know how to build it, and you need to know how to move the car from one place to the next. I mean, you just have to know too much to be able to do something.
You also have to have money, because hosting it on a free site.com, if you're doing a free newsletter on Substack or whatever these other ones are, you are costing someone server money. Like doing that is not quote unquote free, because it isn't. It has a cost. So I also saw on some threads, you know, the argument that if I have a free newsletter on Substack, I'm actually costing them money, so it's good to stay there, because then they'll cost them money, and it's like, no, but you're validating them and saying that what they're doing is okay by being there. So that's moot. But the point is, none of these services are owed to people, and you know, even government programs that are quote unquote actually owed to people, or a right, those also get taken away depending on the politics. So building out any of these choices, unless you're paying $38,000 for it to be Matt Mullenweg's problem, what happens to your content? Like, you would literally, you pay that, and then it's important. They basically take on that responsibility. But like, you know, 20 years in the future, do we all see that? Well, this is the end of life for this service. So,
right.
Which it's because, you know, the way the internet now is, this doesn't matter anymore, because we're all in holograms, or we're all, you know, in huts. Who knows what it is? But like, I don't think that we need the websites to last forever. This is my take on this. I think
everything dies.
Everything dies. That is the actual.
That's a fact. Everything dies, but someday comes back. Put your makeup on, do your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City.
Yeah, because we all die. And also, so should your website. One quick point, although that was very poetic.
That was Bruce Springsteen. But
okay. Well, no wonder. So in terms of business, right? We're talking a lot about blogs and personal stuff. But in terms of business, you know, business content should never be static for that long. Like, all of the content, you know, people talk about page builders, and it's like, oh, it locks you into stuff. And I was like, first of all, I have only ever used for post content that would be long, that you would want to have longer periods of time, like archived content. Posts, you know, they can go through whatever format. You don't have to design them out. Pages that you're making are essentially all landing pages, right? And that is going to change. That's going to change depending on your products or your services, or what your audience changes. And all of that stuff is going to evolve with the business. So who cares if you have to redo that page? Like, you can you might take some of the text, you might ditch all of the text. Like, so the longevity of a page in a website is really, like, to me, especially for a business website, like that has an intentional and should have an expiration date, because it should, you know, maybe not that URL, you know, your about page will be /about for like forever, but in terms of the actual content, that does not need to be preserved, right? That could go any which way. So I guess I'm just more temporal than I thought. I was like, I didn't realize I was going to come down on the side of, like, you know, burn it all.
My about page, my about page 5 years ago said I had 2 dogs. One of those dogs has since passed away. And like, my interests were craft beer and whiskey, and okay, I you know, it was the most milk toast about page. Exactly.
On the beach.
Long walks off a short pier, and but and all of that. I mean, now that really, I mean, sure, I still like Irish whiskey. craft beers can kind of go fly a kite. I know that that's strong words from me, who normally doesn't use a
Look,
lot
you've
of.
changed. You've evolved as a person, and you need a
Yeah.
new webpage. You need a new domain. You need a new thing. Like,
Yeah.
don't take that web data baggage with you into the future. Hit delete. Type delete again, and then be done with it.
Delete yourself.
That's the real data liberation. Okay,
See,
sorry.
I think that the kids who do not know how to use folders and files, and who basically are still using Snapchat, that everything just goes away after 24 hours. I think they're onto something.
I think they are too. It's much more living in the moment. And then us millennials are really bagged down by our old domain names, our old files that we're dragging around. I got a couple old hard drives. I'm like, this is really important stuff. I got to keep on here.
Everything is ephemeral. I think our big takeaway, and unless the other two of you have something else to say, I think the big takeaway here, I think I can bring us home, is that everything is ephemeral unless you own your own shit, unless you own your own domain, unless you own everything
and your
else,
own land, and your own server, and your own solar panel, and your own caretaker who's going to take care of that.
Yeah. I mean, hell, I said it was over.
Going to be around. I don't know.
Off-grid your website.
Died. They're all dying. Everything died.
I actually have either of you ever seen? I think it's like Low Tech Magazine or something like that. It's a website.
No, but please subscribe me right now.
Literally runs off of like a Raspberry Pi and a solar panel, and sometimes you go to the site and it is offline. The background of the site, the background of the site changes to let you know how much charge is left on the server on the site. It is so rad.
Oh my God. It is rad.
Links
oh my gosh.
Bio. Or no, not in bio.
Cool.
We put our links in the show notes. There we go.
Yeah, we'll add it to the show notes, definitely. But
it tells you the battery's 56% right now.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Oh,
I love it.
But again,
you see, we're going to bring us home, and then I took us out of the door again. I was like, no, wait, one more thing to look at.
no, but it's fine. It's fine. Because I like right now, I have a friend who, my very dear good friend Jeremy Kitchen is fighting like stage 4 colon cancer, and he is like going through chemo. It seems to be treatable, but I mean, stage 4, that's pretty serious. Everything else. And him and I had a discussion, and he's like, hey, I have other people like being the executor of my wills and everything else, and I hope that Jeremy doesn't want to kill me for mentioning this on a podcast. That if you, but no, he asked me, will you take care of like my password vault? Like, can I basically like give you the keys to everything, because the person who I have as executor of my will not know how to handle any of that. Right. Will you handle like my?
It's called a digital executor.
Yeah. And so he put me down, and I still need to sign the paperwork. But he was just like, hey, I'm going through some serious stuff. Like, are you willing to step up and do this for me? And a lot of the stuff that's in there also has to do with what websites he wants to keep online when he dies, how to tell people on the internet that he has passed away, how to do all of this stuff. And again, like I keep coming back to, like I keep sending Say down this existential spiral, everything dies. Including like one of my very best friends, and hopefully not for a good long time. But you have to have a plan in place for this stuff. You have to. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I had a friend who had a kind of a scary surgery, preventive, for cancer, and she asked me to be her digital executor. Is that what it is? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm also serve as a digital executor for someone, and it was a formal process, like a will.
Yep.
And it was a it was a hard discussion, but I was of course honored and happy to do so. I was like, oh, the fact that you would trust me with this is so amazing. And also just to think about like, who do you trust with that, right? Like, for me, like it's like we can do it for each other and then not get in the car accident together or something.
Right.
So,
Yeah. But I think that's, sometimes there is stuff you're going to want to keep on, and there is stuff you're going to want to get rid of. There is stuff you're going to want deleted and burned. It's so much. It's everything died.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of people doing like
Happy New Year though.
Like the concept of a dead man, like the concept of a dead man switch, where, if you don't check your email after so many days, then it will, start shutting off everything. There's a cron job that's going to go in and start knocking out everything.
Google's going to do that for you if you don't log in for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so there is an expiration date. Those servers are going to die too. All the servers. Right. All those servers. Someday Facebook's server farms are going to be like Chernobyl. Maybe less radioactive, but probably like spooky, like old abandoned towns. Like old spooky server towers that are like shut down with like all these wires coming out of it. Ooh, that would be a great horror movie someone should write, or thriller. Someone should write that. That'd be cool. Futuristic, like all the hate coming out of all the Facebook servers.
I would really like to see Alex Garland direct that. He's the guy that did why can't I Ex Machina Annihilation. That was the one I was trying to like pull out of. I would really I would really like to see some like dead decaying data centers.
Dystopian tech horror that's not AI. Let's do that.
Okay. I was gonna say watch Megan, because that one from last year was so good.
Anyway, we've got Existential Dread and some show wrecks, and Happy New Year to all of you.
Yeah,
we're back, and again, we talked about this on Dev Branch, but if you are just here for the technical WordPress stuff, tune into Dev Branch, because we don't talk about all the other stuff as much. So we talk about the extemporaneous things. Dev Branch is a little more focused, so that gives us.
I mean, it's the same people doing the same thing.
What?
I try harder to stay on topic. How about that? Is that
okay?
All right. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get a GPT type thing to tell me whether or not it stays on topic.
Oh my god, a water cooler AI is the best idea.
Look, I mean, I haven't done it in a while, but I used to send you like how often was Say talking versus Cosper and and I would love it to say like, out of those times, how often was she on topic?
Oh no.
4% of the time.
Maybe 12 years of data of me just talking on the internet that someone's going to be able to mine. Oh no. Also, YouTube videos, they're not going to be around forever either. You just wait.
No.
It's going down.
Yeah.
We should have a pool. When does YouTube die? 2028? 2030?
Well, hey, Tucker, speaking of going down, why don't you hit that outro button?
We love ya. Happy New Year 2024.
See y'all later. Hey, go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, and you can learn how to subscribe to our content over there. We'd really appreciate it. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We really would have kept going if I mean, this show would have been 2 hours long.